Hey guys, it's CryptJ1958 here, coming at you with an updated deck profile from my Mayakashi deck out. We're finally able to get the last Mayakashi piece that we needed, and I was able to get the last few cards that I needed as well, so I can show you with no proxies. Let's just get into the deck profile real quick. So we're going to start out with the monsters. Most of the monster lineup is pretty close to the same. Of course, we're running 3 Daki, your main card that you're going to go into the most, because every time she's used for a synchro or a link material for a Mayakashi monster, she special summons herself back from the graveyard, and she is the tuner, so she just kind of keeps going with the climbing up the synchro ladder. We're also running 3 of the Hajun. He special summons from the deck. So he's normal summoned or special summoned. He special summons another Mayakashi from the deck. Usually, if you open up with him, you're going for Daki. It just kind of depends on what you open up with, but that's your usual play. Even if you open up with him and Daki, you're going to normal summon him and go into Daki, unless you have some of the other cards we're going to talk about in a second. And then we're running 2 Shefu. He special summons from the graveyard. He's more of a late game play, but mostly we're trying to go for the FTK of the deck out. The new MVP of the deck is Yuki Masumi. What she does is, if she's in your hand or in the graveyard and you have a Mayakashi on the field, you can special summon her, and then she sends another zombie card from the deck to the graveyard. So usually you're using her to dump either your Mizuki or your Soul Absorbing Bone Tower, and that's where we get the FTK. So basically you're using cards to dump her either to the graveyard or get her to your hand, and then you're using your other plays to go into to get your Hajun and Daki on the field, and then you'll have 3 Mayakashi monsters go into the link, and then just start climbing up the ladder. And then if you have one of our mini revival cards, that's just going to extend your play so you can guarantee the FTK, because the whole point is to deck your opponent out using Soul Absorbing Bone Tower. One of the best parts about this deck is if you don't get the full FTK because you didn't have a revival card or whatever the case may be, Soul Absorbing Bone Tower cannot be targeted for attacks if you have another zombie on the field, and then Yukiona, the link monster, cannot be targeted for attacks if she points to a Mayakashi synchro. And usually you're ending with our big 3300 beater. So usually you're going to be able to protect them. So on your next turn you can actually go for the remainder of the deck out. We're going to get into the spell cards to kind of go over what they do. So Mayakashi Return, it gets one Mayakashi card from your deck and either puts it in your hand or into the graveyard. I usually like sending stuff to the graveyard. That's usually what I get Yuki Musume into the graveyard with. And then we can just kind of go off from there. Or if you need one of your starters like Hasun into your hand, you can do that as well. If you're lucky enough to open towers and one of your starters, then you have Call of the Mummy. You're going to activate this, and what it lets you do is if you have no monsters on your side of the field, you can special summon a zombie type monster from your hand, and you can only use that once per turn, but you're only going to use that on turn 1, and that's just to get your towers onto the field with one of your starters, so you can start the deck out as quick as possible. Another card to help facilitate that is Triple Double Summon. I don't use this one as often. I'm not sure if it's just because I'm not drawing into it or if it's just not as good as some of the others. I may switch that out for a Call by the Grave, just because this deck can lose out to hand traps. Mainly Ogre and Effect Veiler. This can play through Ash, because Ash is only going to stop them from milling 2 cards, but then it doesn't actually negate the effect till the end of the turn, so they're just going to keep going. And then we're going to get into some of our revival cards. We got World Legacy Succession, special summons from the graveyard to his own a link monster points to. Book of Life, special summons a zombie monster and banishes a card from your opponent's grave. That one is usually used as an extender, because usually you need to mill a few cards before your opponent's before you can use it. So usually what I'll do is if I have this in my hand and I'm able to set up towers and have the link monster and 2 other Mayakashis on the field, I'll save this until I've gone all the way up the ladder, and then use this to bring back my either Yuki Musume or Hajun to start a ladder on the second link point, and that will facilitate the FTK. Got a little bit of draw power here. So I'm running 3 Dark World Dealings. Again, that's just to help set up the graveyard. And then Upstart Goblin, 1 day of peace, and then Hand Destruction. Because we are going for deck out, Hand Destruction works quite well, especially if you open up just, like if you open up only double summons and Call of the Mummy and a card destruction, you're not going to be able to do much. Card destruction, set up your opponent's graveyard so the Book of Life survive and draw into something you need. And the last 2 cards we're using are Foolish Burial, which usually is more of an extender that I found, just because you're able to dump the cards that you need in the graveyard, like your Mizuki or your Yuki Musume. And then a Monster Reborn, just another free revival. So between all of these cards, we have 4, 7, we have 10 revival cards. So basically what you're going to do is you're going to get your 3 Mayakashis on the field with towers. You're going to start going up the ladder, dealing, or you're going to, basically, you're going to go into your Synchro. That's going to mill 2 cards. Daki comes back, mill 2 cards, and then you go into another Synchro with Daki and the current one you have, and you just keep going until you get to the level 11. And then with one of the extenders like Monster Reborn, or if you can get another Mizuki into the graveyard, or, you know, Book of Life, then you special summon another level 1 back, and then you just start going up the ladder again. To go into the extra deck, we're running 2 of the Yuki Onna, which is the Link Monster. She can't be targeted for attacks when she points to a Mayakashi Synchro Monster, and if a Synchro Monster she points to is destroyed, you can half the attack and defense of a monster that your opponent controls until the end of the turn. That doesn't come up a whole lot, but usually if you can't actually get the FTK to go through, then the first thing they're going to try to do is get rid of your biggest monster, which is a 3300 beater, and that procs her effect. So that can be kind of nice. Alright, so now we're going to go into the level 3. He is Oboro Guruma, the Wheel Mayakashi, and basically all of the Mayakashi Synchros, when the one that is 2 levels higher than it gets destroyed, then you can banish a Mayakashi card and special summon this one from the grave. So the level 5, if it gets destroyed, this one comes out. And each one of them has a different ability that happens when they are special summoned from the graveyard. This one makes it so your monsters can't be destroyed. And then we're going to go into the level 5, which is Tsukigumo. And when he's special summoned, both players send the top 3 cards of their deck to the graveyard. So he special summons himself back from the graveyard. You basically mill 3 more cards, which helps with the FTK. Then the level 7, which destroys a spell or trap your opponent controls. The level 9, and this one destroys a monster your opponent controls. And then we're running 2 of the level 11. and this one makes it so your monsters are basically unaffected by anything for the remainder of the turn. And this is your 3300 beater. You can only have one copy of each of these on the field. So when you're climbing up the ladder the second time, you're usually going to stop on the level 9. But really the only time that you're going to go that high is if you're going against somebody with like a 60 card deck. And at that point, it's going to be pretty tough to deck them out. Really what you're going to rely on is them being able to pull something out so they're destroying your monsters, and then, you know, you banish, bring back, and then you start tagging them out on their turn. Another interesting tech you could do is you could throw in, if you wanted to go like almost glass cannon-y, you could take out the Call of the Mummy and the double summons and throw in Metaverse and Zombie World, because then every time your opponent special summons, they're special summoning a zombie, so it's going to deck them out as well. I've toyed around with that. It's not... I don't want to say it's not as consistent, because a lot of times double summon or Call of the Mummy doesn't make or break the opening hand, but a lot of times it does help. So it kind of depends on your play style and how much of a troll you want to be. Those are just kind of a couple ideas that I've kind of toyed around with. I don't really like the style of it. This is definitely a deck that can lose to hand traps, but if it goes off, it's not fun to play against, because you're just watching your deck go down, and then your opponent ends your turn, you can't draw, and you lose. So it's not fun to go against. You're not going to make any friends playing it, but it's just fun to goof off at locals and just kind of mess with people. Yeah, that's the updated deck profile. The real cards that makes the deck is the new level 1, the Yuki Musume. That helped the consistency of the deck a ton, because the problem we were having with the first version that I put on here was we didn't have a way to get towers on the field if we had to get our Mayakashi set up, unless we opened with towers and Call of the Mummy. With Yuki Musume, we don't have to rely on double summon or Call of the Mummy as much. So it just does so much better. And then since we have so many ways of getting her into the graveyard, if we don't open with her in our hand, it just takes the deck so much more. I would say I'm able to facilitate an FTK probably 3 out of 10 times, just because I'm able to get that extender to go up the ladder on the second link point. Most of the time I'm able to get the first ladder going, and I usually leave my opponent with 10 to like 6 to 10 cards, and then, you know, they're not able to really do much except for go after one of this, to go after the level 11, and then that just starts the ladder going back down, and so they end up decking themselves out even more. So I either get the FTK, get it on my second turn, or I just completely brick and am not able to do much, or my opponent stops. So it's probably about 3 out of 10 times I'm able to get the FTK. Probably 5 out of 10 times I'm able to still get the deck out, but it takes a turn or two. And then, you know, the rest of the time I'm shut down, or I just brick and I'm not able to get going. So it's not the most consistent deck, but it's a lot of fun, and it makes a lot of people mad. You're going to have most people scoop and just not even want to deal with you. It's a lot of fun, but yeah, that's my deck. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you messed with the deck, different tech cards that you've used that I may have overlooked. Yeah, just let me know what you think. Make sure you keep liking, subscribing, and sharing the videos. Let's keep growing the channel, and Yeah, thank you so much for watching. You guys have a great day.